All right, let's do it. Are you ready for this? We have got an entire episode of r/PettyRevenge here on the RR Show. But the question is, have you shared the show with a friend or enemy? Or coworker, or somebody you just met? Well, yeah, okay, well, share the show with a friend. That'd be great. All right, so let's get started right now. Posted by Anonymous. The time I humiliated a bully in my aunt's corgi fan forum and got her laughed out for targeting my aunt. For this, we need to rewind about 12 years ago to when dedicated forums rather than Discord were more of a thing, especially with the older community. My aunt, I'd like to add, is the sweetest, kindest, most gentle woman I have ever met. The kind of person who would gladly take the kick me sign off someone else and wear it for herself to give that person a break because she feels bad. She's amazing. I love her dearly. The drama background. My aunt has never had a corgi. Only other small breed dogs, but gosh, she sure does love corgis. She joined this cute forum of older ladies who would share pictures and stories and cute little sparkly edits of their dogs and support each other when someone's dog was sick. You know the drill. But like with most communities, there's always someone who likes to stir the pot. In this case, we have, shall I say, Donna. Now, Donna did have a corgi, and due to that, she felt very entitled that the forum, which she in no way created, should exclude anyone who did not. My aunt's beloved toy poodle did not count. So she would subtly jab at those like my aunt who loved a breed they couldn't have. But no one really wanted to make waves about it, especially since my aunt would just turn the other cheek. Up to this point, I knew almost nothing about the community, just that it was something my aunt participated in and that it made her happy. Then I get 2 emails. First, from my uncle. A warning that this woman, Donna, said something to my aunt, and my aunt asked her to stop please being mean, which resulted in her whole forum going into offensive and defensive mode. I'm picturing like the virtual version of old ladies throwing tea cakes at each other and trying to ruin their fancy hats. And also apparently Donna has gotten a hold of my aunt's email information and contact list, and had sent out a nasty email to everyone my aunt knew. My aunt was mortified and sobbing and begging through my uncle because she's so conflict avoidant that everyone shouldn't read it. My mom was staying at their house for a while, so she was supporting my aunt as best as she could. But the clear message was, please don't read it, your aunt will be even more embarrassed. Not my style. So I opened the email from Donna, and it's the blandest, cattiest crap ever about how my aunt is just a corgi lover wannabe, how she's only so nice on the surface, how it's all fake, how her edits are basically trash, and how everyone who knows her in real life should try to teach her to mind her place. If it wasn't aimed at the meekest woman on the planet, it would have barely qualified as cruel. This woman knew her target though, and knew she wouldn't hit back. Donna probably assumed my aunt would quietly quit the forum and all would blow over, since this was in private emails and not on the forum. Ever see someone in a movie tilt their head and hear the cracking in their neck? Yeah, that was me. So I responded, not cursing, not arguing, not being volatile. No, I was nice. I was so nice. I started by saying I understand how hard things like this can be when drama comes between friends, and how Donna, as presumably a 16-year-old, has a lot of growing up to do to understand how adult relationships work. I pointed out all her points and how they seemed like such small, strange things to fixate on, and promised that when she grows up, she'll understand how silly and pointless it is to talk about. I gently lectured her on how using someone's passions online to try to harm them in the real world is dangerous. Not only for them, but also for young Miss Donna, who doesn't have the maturity, experience, empathy, or grace yet to know how small and childish it all makes her look, while not making my aunt look bad at all. How truly shameful it was. But I knew it was not entirely her fault. She was still clearly mentally, emotionally, and developmentally a child. It was the most saccharine, gentle, condescending and brutal takedown I could manage. It was the kindly teacher with the barbed microaggressions hitting her ego at every single step. I turned this petty, catty chick into her 60s into the image of a bratty, immature teenager lashing out against someone who she was jealous of because they were liked more. And then I ended it, and just in case you haven't caught on, let me spell it out. F you, Donna. And replied to all, and waited. And then I get a call, about half hour later, from my mother, who's laughing in absolute hysterics and can't quite even talk at first. Took a while to get the story out, but apparently the reply all came in, and my uncle said it was from me, and my aunt was just horrified. So my uncle read it privately, and was laughing by about halfway through, at which point he printed it out, and read it to my aunt and my mom. My aunt was flustered and chuckling and asking my mom, "She knows Donna is in her 60s, right?" As my mom is cackling like a hyena. Per my mom, he gave the emphasis on the final FU with a venom that would do me proud and made my aunt giggle. My uncle got on the phone and thanked me profusely. It was the only thing that broke my aunt out of the cycle of embarrassment and tears. A few days later, I get the final update. Someone on my aunt's contact list was also on the forum and posted the whole email drama, highlighting my response. At that point, it was all met with laughter. My aunt was wholeheartedly supported, and apparently Donna was given a ban for bad behavior. My aunt is still in love with corgis and friends with that community, and I'm the favorite niece. But to be fair, I'm the only one. Our second story in this r/PettyRevenge episode comes from user Sanity Checkout. No Bachelor of Science degree in coffee making. So I was fresh out of college many years ago and had an engineering job at a small company. I had been there a little over a year and was learning many aspects to my job. That included shop floor work, small project supervision, learning customers, and technical support, manufacturing, and sales. Small company, so I wore a lot of hats. It was rewarding, and I learned a lot in my time there. However, at this point on the job, I had a boss that thought college grads were punks and didn't have common sense. He reminded me regularly his high school GED was good enough for that company, and he was a manager without a degree. I always smiled and kept learning the business and making strides with the workforce. So on this particular day, we had important customers coming in for a quarterly review. Execs and management had set up the conference room, and a few of us, including my boss, arrived early. He surveyed the room and noted that we needed coffee. I volunteered to get the admin assistant, but in front of everyone, he told me something to the tune of, "Well, college boy, you should be smart enough to make coffee. Don't bother the admin assistant, you gotta do it." Background. I am not a coffee drinker. I do not know how to make coffee other than one would add water to the coffee machine, which I've never done because I don't drink coffee. But I do understand the concept. I tried to explain I had never done this before, but he made more references to college boy and smarts. So embarrassed by his statements, and there was actually more to it and some ribbing laughter as I left, I went to the break room to make coffee. Again, let me state I don't do coffee. I looked at the bun machine. Easy enough. Water goes in one area. Check. A filter fits in a plastic holder. Check. Coffee goes in the filter. How much coffee? I can hear everyone yucking it up in the conference room, so I didn't want to ask. And the coffee was kept in a sterile container with no instructions. So I filled the whole filter up to the top. Coffee in, check, flip the brew switch, and it starts the process. Soon the smell of coffee is in the air. Boss comes in with a couple of people. They grab cups and promptly start to guzzle strong coffee. My boss turns red and spits his out loudly, then cussed me as the admin assistant and the company president walk into the room. The other guys kept sipping. As my boss is flustering, the president takes a cup, gets a pour, while my boss is telling him not to. The president takes a sip, tilts his head, looks at me, and said it reminded him of college finals week. Then told my boss he talked to him after the meeting. The admin assistant assured me all is well, then diluted the coffee and served it without anyone complaining. My boss just stared at his feet for the whole 2 hours. Me? I was never asked to make coffee again. Our final r/PettyRevenge story comes from user Prestigious Store 22. Coworker thinks he can get away with driving like an idiot. This is my petty revenge story from my time as a military driver on Curacao. Before I start, everything I write actually happened. Last post was bombed by people saying this isn't real, this didn't happen, etc. Don't believe it? I don't care. Read the stories you do believe. I used to be in the Dutch Navy as a military driver. When I joined the Army, I used to be a Marine, but because of a chronic injury in my shins, I was transferred to the Navy, keeping my then current rank and function. If I didn't do this, I could not stay in the Army for extended time, and after my term, I would be discarded. On to the story. One perk of being in the Dutch Navy is possible placing on 2 of the Dutch Caribbean islands, Aruba or Curacao, in Dutch, de West. I managed to secure a placement on the base at Curacao, Marine Bases Panera, for the term of a year. My function was to be a driver among fellow coworkers. Some of them were Marines, some of them were Navy, like me, and about half of them were local personnel. I really got along with most of them, but of course you cannot be friends with everybody. It was a fact that local drivers were cut some slack when they would mess up or generally behave less desirable. The why and how this was established was very unclear. To be very clear, most of them were excellent coworkers and really nice people, the same as my Navy and Marine coworkers. However, one of my local colleagues in particular was really cocky and considered him above the law concerning the general rules of behavior. He would drive away in his vehicle with spinning tires, tune up the volume of his music really loud, and would drive very irresponsibly. There are other examples about his general behavior, but those aren't relevant to the story. When he would transport people, it would be a little better, but with cargo, he didn't care much. Results were minor damages on the vehicle and cargo. From time to time, complaints from other people on site, but never enough to get him reprimanded properly. My fellow coworkers and I got really annoyed with his untouchable attitude. We expressed our concern to our immediate supervisors, but nothing really was done. Now, on to the revenge. Said coworker used to be the first one to grab a vehicle in the morning to use for a shuttle service for base personnel. The vehicle would always be parallel parked along the logistics office where we would be during the day when we weren't driving. The last driver of the watch would park the vehicle there. When he would drive away, he would reverse away at full speed, turn the vehicle, and speed away to his first pickup point. At one point, I happened to be the last driver of the watch when I concluded my shift, which would be waiting for on-call pickups of personnel after regular working hours. I parked the vehicle. This time, I steered the wheels of the vehicle away from the building before shutting down the vehicle. If he would drive forward, he would steer away, and backwards, the front would steer toward the wall. The following morning, apparently my coworker ran the vehicle sideward into the wall with the side just before the front wheel of the vehicle because he thought it would back away in a straight line. He obviously didn't notice his front wheels being steered in. When my coworkers and I arrived the next morning, we saw him standing there with the damaged vehicle with minor damage to the wall, talking to the Dutch military police. I was never suspected to sabotage the vehicle to turn immediately when driving away, but my coworker finally got reprimanded because a little investigation showed that if he would have been driving away slowly like he was supposed to, nothing would have happened. To be clear, he could never make enough speed to get injured, just enough to dent the front of the car scratched the paint off the walls of the building. Distance was about 50 to 60 centimeters from vehicle to wall. He couldn't continue his ride because the front bumper was bent because of the collision and dropped a bit to the ground on one side. He was a bit humbler after this, but not for very long. So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.